talking Apple wearables, and a theoretical Apple Ring on the Mac Show on the British Tech Network with Jeff Gamet. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by the new MacVoices Discord, available to all of our MacVoices patrons. Sign up and join in the conversation in your new favorite online group at patreon.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, recently on a Summer of Fun show on the British Tech Network's Mac Show, Jeff Gamet and I had a chance to talk about Apple wearables and a possible theoretical Apple Ring and what that could look like. Now, this is something we don't usually do on MacVoices, just speculate wildly or talk about unannounced products to any significant degree. But this was so much fun, and so many interesting thoughts came out of it that I wanted to share it with you. BTN's honcho, Ewan Rankin, has given me permission to republish this show so that you can enjoy it on MacVoices as well. So it will be published in 2 parts. And I would tell you to definitely, if you find this kind of content interesting, the Mac Show on BTN is always a lot of fun, no matter which one of the panel members or which members of the panel show up. So check it out at BritishTechNetwork.com. With that, let's get to our conversation with Jeff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mac Show. I'm Jeff Gamet. I'm your interim host, sitting in for Ewan Rankin, and I was out last week, and surprisingly, or at least for me, I'm here this week. I got like stupid sick, like really sick, and I'm just glad to be upright. So, Chuck, thank you, and thank you to everyone else who was here last week to cover for me, since I couldn't get my sorry butt out of bed.
Hey, that's what we all do here, Jeff. No problem. No problem.
Well, and somehow everything still continues to run. It is a well-oiled machine.
Okay, if
we're gonna go with that, just roll with it.
Yeah. Can I help you use some medical advice?
I would love some medical advice.
Stop drinking the cheap stuff.
This is excellent advice. I have already taken that advice to heart with my tea, which is what I'm saying is in this cup. And yeah, now I'll do it for the rest of my liquid treats. And Chuck, you might recognize this mug.
I do recognize that mug.
For those of you that are playing it along at home, Chuck and I were at Macstock a couple weeks ago, and Ecamm gave everyone mugs. And my thought at the time was, why do I want to try and pack a mug in my luggage? It's going to get broken. It didn't get broken. Right? Clearly, I packed it. And it turns out that I was out of mugs today, so I needed a mug. This is why I brought the mug home.
And it's
for today.
It's a really nice mug. I mean, I'm not a hot drink person, but a lot of times I'll put like soup or something in a decent sized mug, and it is a decent sized mug. So kudos to the Ecamm folks. They really did a nice job, and it wasn't one of those things where they just sent a tchotchke or something that gets either thrown in the hotel trash can or the trash can at home when you get it home. It is in my cabinet. It will be used.
And mine is getting its inaugural use today.
Oh, I'm honored that I was here for it.
I'm glad that I have it, because otherwise I'd have tea in my hands, and that would just no,
that doesn't work.
Hey everyone, it's Summer of Fun, and what that means is that the tech and Apple news cycle is kind of slow right now. So we're just picking different topics and talking about what we want. And to be clear, just so everyone knows right up front, I still feel like crap. And because of that, we will probably end up doing a shorter show today, just so that I stay awake through the whole thing. But hey, it's also Summer of Fun, and apparently there are no bosses of us who can tell us otherwise. Yeah.
See, if we were in the same place and Jeff fell asleep during the show, I would find a Sharpie and give him some cosmetic alterations. But since he's in Denver, I'm in Pennsylvania. Yeah, not going to happen.
If you were here, Chuck, right there, choose your color, choose your pen tip size. There are so many Sharpies within hand's reach right now.
And I've got exactly two. I've got a silver one and a black one, and that's the extent of my ability to participate in this.
So you can make me look distinguished. I can make me look like a clown.
Yeah, good. Well, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. Hey, our somewhere fun topic today, for those of you that are watching, listening to the recording later, or didn't tune in before the show started, we decided we're going to talk about Apple and wearables, and what's triggering this is a discussion. Well, Chuck, you found an article that talked about why Apple's health ring, fitness ring, is going to be better than everyone else's health or fitness ring.
Yeah, I'll throw it in our chats, Jeff. It's now. Let's be real clear here. We do not have an Apple Ring right now. There is no announced Apple Ring. This is barely even a rumor. It's one of those pieces like, well, if Apple makes it, it'll quote how the Apple Ring will blow all the other smart ring manufacturers out of the water.
Yeah. And now keep in mind, there were discussions for a long time about Apple doing like a Chromebook style version of the Mac. That never happened. Foldable phones, that still hasn't happened. There are a lot of products that are out there in the wild today that the pundits all say, well, Apple isn't making their version of that yet, therefore they've fallen behind. Or Apple isn't making their version of that yet, but when they do, boy, howdy, it's going to be great. And then we never see the product because Apple never did it. So we don't know if Apple's making a smart ring. But my question is, why? What is it that Apple can actually bring to the table that would make making a smart ring a good thing? Like, what are they going to do to differentiate their product? Because if Apple can't differentiate the product, then it's not going to come to market, which I think is part of the reason why we don't have airport base stations anymore, because they couldn't bring anything significantly new to the market or interesting. And at the price points, companies like Eero had already taken up that space and Apple didn't want it.
So in the chat, Magic Man says, and at only $499, it should be. Yeah. So you're right, Magic Man.
So the rumor is it's a $500 ring, I guess.
I don't think it's I don't believe. I didn't really make note of that. I don't think it was specified in here as to what it would be. But that is one of the challenges, and look, there are other smart rings out there that seem to be having some level of success, mainly I think as health devices.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get into this question of, and Magic Man in the chat also said glucose monitor. That to me is the thing that everybody seems to want. Is blood pressure,
non-invasive glucose monitor. I mean, that's like a holy grail for a lot of people.
Right. And so, would it be easier? And man, I don't know about you, Jeff, but I am way outside my comfort zone here. So this is just raw speculation or asking, would it be easier to do a glucose monitor and or blood pressure monitor with a ring rather than with the Apple Watch?
Here's my take on that. Because of the sensors and the power usage, that you would probably want to put it in a watch simply because you have more space to work with. But if it's like a very, very focused device. Like this ring is your glucose sensor. And that's like basically all it does. Okay, maybe put it in a ring. But right now we do not have keep in mind, I'm about to speak very U.S. centric here because that's the perspective that I have being in the United States. We do not have a FDA approved non-invasive glucose monitor today. And that's because right now the companies that are working on cracking this nut, if you will, have not been able to produce something that is accurate enough and reliable enough to be used as a medical device. And if you're doing glucose monitoring, then odds are you're doing it because you need to know exactly what your glucose levels are. And so giving you something that can offer you trends over time probably isn't going to be good enough to be something that you actually want to use or could use.
Jeff, I agree with you. I mean, look, let's acknowledge that we're just going to do rampant speculation here as to what could be what you'd like to see it, which almost turns into a science fiction discussion. Magic Man just said that, let's see, I lost. Oh, he said link the two, I guess the watch and the phone, which sounds like a decent idea, except that I'm not sure it solves the battery problem, because if those sensors have to be monitoring constantly or on a regular basis, they're still going to be sucking up power, and there's no, it could report to the phone, or excuse me, it could report to the watch, and that would make a lot of sense. But how much of a power savings is that? So beyond that, beyond these health considerations, what else could you do? Well, I don't know if you could have it vibrate when you get a message. Does that really make a big difference? Because my watch does that. What's the price going to be? Let's see. What's this?
Well, okay, Chuck, here, going with the idea that a ring would be an accessory for an Apple Watch, this would address a cost issue. What if Apple started making ring accessories for Apple Watch, and each ring offered specific health functions, like a dedicated function, like a ring that is a glucose monitor that you would buy if you want to do non-invasive glucose monitoring, and then it feeds the data back to your Apple Watch. And I suppose it could feed it back to your phone as well, but I'm thinking these would be like add-on sensor packages for an Apple Watch, but they don't actually go in the watch. They just go on your finger.
I struggle with it. I mean, first of all, can you imagine what the pundits would say about, Apple? They're only making, I have to have a glucose monitoring ring on my right hand and a blood pressure ring on my left hand, and something else on my pinky finger, and pretty soon I'm going to look like I'm wearing brass knuckles. So
Chuck, I've got the image in my head of you walking through a conference, rings on all your fingers, and you've got the sleeves on your polo shirt rolled all the way up to your shoulders, and you've got that strut going on, like, oh yeah,
yeah. Yes, like I'm the Apple version of Mr. T.
Yes.
No, that's not a good picture. I don't know. I mean, first of all, I like the idea in some ways, although I am not a ring wearer. I mean, so many people say, oops, sorry, my camera just blinked at me. I'm not a ring wearer, nor have I ever really been one. I think for a while I had a class ring, and that was about it. So other than that, but I've always worn a watch. So, and Jeff, if memory serves, you were one of those that did not wear a watch until the Apple Watch came along. Am I correct on that?
You are correct. And I wear an Apple Watch not because I like wearing watches, but I have come to accept that wearing this watch, which still annoys me to have the thing on my wrist, it gives me, uh, or it's a useful tool for me. And this is how this tool is carried. So I have a watch on my wrist, even though I'm not a big fan.
Yeah,
Which tells you
and
how useful the Apple Watch is to me.
exactly. And I mean, so for me, it was a no-brainer because I just swapped out. I think I had one of those Citizens before.
Mm-hmm.
I gave up on the Geek watches because they just never seemed to do anything that I really, really wanted them to do.
Mm-hmm.
And the again, if memory serves, and this is, I mean, Apple Watch One came out, and I put the Citizen down and have never picked it back up. But it was one of those eco drives that you never have to wind. You don't have a battery. It just goes by your motion. So
Mm-hmm.
I like that idea because it was no maintenance. Now I have an Apple Watch that I charge. I charge usually when I'm in the shower, and that's more than enough to get me through the day. So that had to become a new ritual because I do sleep with it.
Mm-hmm.
So so now we get into another question about a ring is how are you going to charge it?
I'm assuming it would be inductive charging, like we're doing with the Apple Watch. So you just take the ring and set it on the charging pad.
I,
Although that would put the coils in the wrong angle. So would you have to stand it on end? Or does it have to have like a little fake finger that you drop it on?
and that's the one I'm looking because I'm thinking, the edge of a ring, that's not a lot of contact with the charging plate.
Mm-hmm.
And your charging plate has to be a plate. It has to be in a horizontal position. And I think I know we've talked about this, but I think I know my Apple Watch charger because I have a dedicated stand for that. Has it at an angle so it could be used theoretically, at night. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with my phone. My phone is on a charger that angles it so I can use the standby mode with the clock at night. So now I have to have probably one of the pads that, like on the combo devices, you see that would charge the Apple AirPods.
Oh, sure. So now your charging plate gets bigger because it has to hold a phone, a watch, AirPods, and a ring.
Right. And again, I think about the, I mean, even the, let's see, this is not a charging case, but you think case that matches my shirt. Um, Happy accident. But you think about how much space there is here that would sit on the charging pad versus just the very small physical contact made by a ring,
Mm-hmm.
and that presents another bit of a challenge.
All right. So what if the ring is a device that's more for gesture control?
Oh, now that gets really interesting. That
Yeah.
gets
So
really interesting.
I mean, you wouldn't necessarily need it with, say, Vision Pro because it already has all the other sensors. But let's say you want to have some sort of gesture control for your iPhone or I guess for your Mac. And we already have that gesture control to a degree with Apple Watch. And when we get the new version of WatchOS this fall, we'll have even more control. But yeah, what if it's like a gesture control thing?
Was it the Leap that you could plug into your iMac or your Mac and do gestures out in front of it, and it recognized the motion of your hand out there, and you could
Oh,
control
I forgot
things.
about that. I think you're right. It was the Magic Leap, right?
Magic Leap, magic, good for you. Yes, Magic Leap. So, yeah, something like that. But instead of having to reach out to where, again, I'm in front of my right in front of my screen where the Magic Leap would be, I'd be able to do it back here. I don't know. I mean, and I do not have a Vision Pro at this point, so I don't know how that could possibly be added to
I
a
think it would
Vision
be
Pro interface.
I think it would be more for controlling your phone or your Mac. because with Vision Pro, the sensors that it needs to be able to track all the gesture movement, that's already built in.
Huh. I want to catch up here because Magic Man is throwing a lot of things in the chat. It's great. It depends on what functions it can bring as extras to the watch and phone. Put the watch on charge while I shower and watch and make it the first tea of the day. That's a 20 to 30 minutes enough for the full day. That's what mine is. Although I think I have a Series 7 Magic Man. He says the round ring shape would be conductive to mag charging. So,
yeah. Well, and I am not a conductive or inductive charging engineer, so I don't know. I was just basing my comment on how all my other devices that use wireless charging have to sit in relation to the charging coils.
right. He also says, or TV. And that's another.
Apple TV remote on your finger. That's kind of cool.
That might be.
You want to fast forward and rewind through shows? You're just doing like this, waving your hand back and forth, tapping on the ring to pause, like maybe rub across the ring to increase volume or decrease volume. That would be a very interesting remote.
Jeff, I'm remembering something. I don't know if it was something shown at CES or whether it was an actual product that made it out. But, and this is going to sound insane, right? But wasn't there something that you could take your hand and put it like a phone, and it would allow you to make calls that way?
That sounds super familiar.
Yeah, and I cannot remember. Obviously, it never caught on because we can't remember which one it was.
Right. But I mean, yeah, that does sound familiar.
Yeah.
And I do remember, I don't remember any companies actually producing a television like this, but I remember seeing patents for televisions, and it might have been Samsung, where it has sensors built into the TV. And so you're using gestures to control the TV from the couch. The other part of the patent, though, was horribly insidious because the television would be able to show you ads that you couldn't fast forward through. And then you had to do what the television said, the type of motions the television told you to do before the commercial would end and you could go back to watching TV.
Oh, man. I think it was Gary Vaynerchuk that said that marketers ruin everything. And I'm starting to believe it. I mean.
Mm-hmm. All right, Chuck. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
Is there a wearable anything that you would like to see Apple make?
Wow. I'm trying to think. I mean, I've got a watch now. AirPods are not considered a wearable, I don't believe.
I'm okay considering AirPods wearable because you stick it in your ear.
Okay.
And we stick the Apple Watch on our wrist and we consider the watch wearable. How about if I change, if I temper what I'm saying or refine what I'm saying by, if you put something else into AirPods that allows it to do more than just play music or have microphones so that you can talk, would that make it a wearable? Like if they put a temperature sensor in the AirPods, is it now a wearable device as opposed to speakers in your ears?
Well, I mean, it could be, and that would make a lot more sense to take a temperature there than probably anywhere else. I mean, do I really care that much about monitoring my temperature, 24/7, well, 23/7, 365, give it an hour for charging. And also, am I, now maybe if I'm a runner, and that's an interesting question, Jeff. Could that be a blood pressure taking situation? Because then I as opposed to going and, putting on the cuff, I could just stick my AirPods in my ear and see what my blood pressure is. And if I'm exercising, I might almost probably have AirPods in, and it could be monitoring my blood pressure and my temperature. So,
Excuse me.
sure, that seems like a decent idea. Now, we're back to some of the power questions. We're back to the size, because unless we want it now, I've got the pros in.
Mm-hmm.
So do we go back to something with the longer stem to handle both the power and the electronics? I don't know. I mean, that sounds like it might be a decent trade-off.
Yeah. And yeah, okay. So possibly an enhanced AirPods with health and fitness tracking. Magic Man, you're just like all talky today, and I love
Yeah.
it. Thank you. Magic Man is saying, what about a pendant that could be like an AI controller of sorts? And that's an interesting idea. I remember at CES several years ago, there was a company that was making a pendant that you would wear, and it had some kind of sensors in it so that it would turn it would record for you. So it'd record audio and video. And you could set it so that, excuse me, it would just record constantly, or it was doing like shots every few seconds. So you'd get like a sped up video of what you're doing, or you could set it so that if you're within a certain distance of something, it would automatically start recording. So and I think it had a location tracker in it also. Excuse me. So I would consider that a form of wearable.
I would agree with that. And I mean, I'm kind of all over the place now, Jeff, because all of these things, and how many of them do you need to do it? But would there be options for triggering geolocation activity,
Sure.
like my phone is right now?
Yeah, why not?
So build that in. Jeff Gamet and I are back next time to finish up our conversation about Apple Wearables, an Apple Watch, and a few other rampantly speculated upon things. Meanwhile, check out BTN, the British Tech Network, at britishtechnetwork.com for all their shows and all their content. I'm Chuck Joyner. I'll see you next time on MacVoices. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.